Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 1200.
As long as you're heading in the direction that you want to go, be open to those changes that may surprise you and may bring blessings that you're not anticipating.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, automotive enthusiasts. I'm revved up and so excited to introduce today's very special guest calling in from Anthem, Arizona, Bernard Oliver. Hey, Bernard, are you buckled up and ready for a fun ride?
I am.
Here we go. Bernard Oliver is an automotive artist who grew up in Southern California. After attending Otis, Parsons, and Art Center, where he studied illustration and design, Bernard became a technical illustrator for General Dynamics. From there, he went on to Nissan Motor Corporation, where he created parts assembly drawings and cutaway illustrations. His freelance work has been with clients including Toyota, Honda, and Disney, in addition to design for the surf apparel industry. He's been an accessory designer for Adidas and has worked with past Cars Yeah guest Berry Meguiar on his Car Crazy television show. Today, he creates designs for a variety of clients from Barrett Jackson to hot rod builders and many others. So, Bernard, I've told our listeners just a little bit about you. Would you take a brief moment, share a little bit more about your career and your passion for automobiles?
Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. I started out in the industry as an illustrator before the computer era. So I was doing everything with the airbrush and pen and ink. And then the computers came on the scene and had to adapt. And that was right about the time I was at Nissan. Saw a whole industry basically be revolutionized by the computer industry and had to reinvent myself. It's been a fun ride. It's been a lot of unexpected turns, but all in all, it's been really wonderful.
Well, you're a lucky guy. I should say you're lucky because I'm not sure I believe in luck. You're someone that planned out your career path. You love cars, you love illustrating, you love drawing, you love art, and you've tackled that as a career, which is really commendable. And we're going to learn a lot more about you as we continue through your journey. But first, I always like to ask my guests for a success quote or a mantra. It's a nice way to get the inspirational tires turning here on Cars Yeah. So, Bernard, take the wheel.
I don't know if I have anything that's really bumper sticker ready, but what I would say to anybody starting out in any career is to be open to the possibilities that are around you. It's good to know the general direction that you want to go. It's nice to know what your true north is, but you can't possibly survey the land that lays before you. There's going to be swamps and peaks and valleys. And as long as you're heading in the direction that you want to go, be open to those changes that may surprise you and may bring blessings that you're not anticipating.
Yeah, it's a great way to go through life. And I know when we get to a question I ask all my guests here about a challenge or a failure, you're going to talk a little bit more about that and how something that on the initial front can seem really devastating, but in hindsight, it was a really good move. But before we go there, I'd love to hear about a story that instigated your passion for cars. I know you grew up in Long Beach, California, Southern California, where I grew up down there, and car culture is huge down there. Plus, you spent some time with Berry Meguiar, great guy, on his Car Crazy TV show. I hope we get to learn about that. But tell us about a pivotal moment in your life when you knew you were going to be a car guy.
Well, I wanted a car when I was 15, and my parents weren't well-to-do, so we bought a 62 Bug for $500, and my dad and I spent the next 2 years rebuilding that car.
Nice.
It was a great project. I ended up lowering it and put Porsche Spyder rims on it, and one-piece window, and had bucket racing seats in it. And we painted the car in our garage. And I think I really started to appreciate cars at that point. It's one thing when you're driving a car and you think you understand the machine, but when it breaks down, you realize how complex that machine is and how little you really know about it. There were two things in my life that really made me appreciate the industry of automobiles, which was building that car and working in the industry where I basically spent the day drawing car parts, drawing engines, and understanding the mechanisms that made that vehicle go.
No doubt. I love V-dubs. That goes back to my youth. I had a 67 Ghia when I was in high school, and I spent a lot of work, tore that car apart. Yeah, rebuilt it, customized a bunch of stuff, not unlike what you did with your Bug. And I would imagine, one of the things that a lot of people don't know all the components, and a Volkswagen is so simple and so basic that it's really kind of a good place to start. I remember having to redo my brakes, and the first time I went to drive, I hadn't tightened up all the little bleeder valves, and of course pushed on the brakes, went to the floor, and almost went through the neighbor's garage. You learn those things the hard way. Luckily, I didn't learn the really hard way, but it's great to do that kind of thing, and then to get to illustrate. Now, you did a lot of those cutaway illustrations. I am in awe of people with your talent that can do that kind of thing and put everything in place. When you're doing a cutaway, and I'm kind of deviating off the questions here before I get to the next one, but how on earth do you know what everything is inside of that vehicle?
Well, when you're working for a company like Nissan, or you're doing freelance work for a large company like Toyota, there's a lot of reference material. There's technical manuals. They have libraries of technical manuals. They have cars in a garage that are in various states of disassembly. So if I was doing a cutaway of a transmission, I could go down to the garage at the Nissan facility and say, I need to see, the inner gears of this particular transmission. And the techs would just take it off the car and open it up for me. And I'd take pictures of it, and I'd cross-reference that with tech manuals and, other documentation that we had. It's a very tedious job to do those type of drawings. It takes a lot of patience. And I think you have to be willing, if you're going to go into that type of work, you really have to be able to hold a particular idea in your head for a very long time until you can see it come to life.
No doubt. Well, I'm in awe of it. I've had several artists on the show that do that kind of work. And when I look at it, I just, oh my gosh, I can't imagine where you begin and where you end and what you show and what you don't show, but very cool talent. Well, let's take a look at some of the roads you've driven down and talk about a big challenge or a big failure. I alluded to this earlier. More importantly, what did that situation teach you, and how did you come out of it at the end in a positive way?
It's kind of like what we were saying earlier. A lot of times, misfortune tends to be something that's an unanticipated blessing. It's often where you stumble, you find your pot of gold. And I think if you didn't have any of those struggles, you would never get out of your comfort zone. I think it's unfortunate, but for most of us, we don't see that until it's in our past and we can review it. But whenever I've had a setback, it's been a growth stage that allowed me to explore different avenues of my career and allow me to branch out in ways that I would never have been afforded unless that mishap had happened. I've had a couple of them. I've been doing this for 30 years. The other thing that I think really influenced me a lot, and really more than anything kind of put words to what I felt but never could put it into language, was my time with Berry Meguiar. He talks about passion. When I look back at my career, I've met a lot of businessmen who, some of them were Ivy League graduates, some of them were high school dropouts. But the one thing they all had that made them successful was they were passionate about what they did. They could light a room on fire talking about their business. And for me, that's definitely been a part of what drives me, is that I love what I do. If you can follow your bliss, there's nothing better than that.
Now, you said you worked with Barry. What did you do with him? I know you said you worked on his Car Crazy TV show.
Yeah, so he had a branch of Meguiar's Car Wax that was called Car Crazy, and he had a TV program, and he would go around to different car shows and interview people like Carroll Shelby and Jesse James and people like that. And so what he also had to support that TV show. He had a website, and he had e-cards that you could download, cards that you could email to people on their birthday or whatever. Or they had special events that they helped sponsor. And I did all the illustrations and graphics to support that website. So I was at Adidas designing golf bags and shoes for Adidas Golf, Berry Meguiar offered me this job to sit around and draw hot rods out all day. So I was like, okay, I'll come over.
Yeah, I think I'll be there. Well, I know that when you were at Nissan and you were there for a while, you said to me in a pre-show chat that they had a big layoff, which was probably very devastating at the time, most of the time, because when big companies do that, sometimes people see it coming, sometimes they ignore it, sometimes they're totally blindsided by it. And for somebody that might be going through something like that, what would be the advice you would offer them?
Let me give a little bit of background to that, because I was 28 years old. I thought I was on top of the world. I had my own office. I had a company car. I was the head illustrator for the publishing department in Nissan. And I really felt really blessed. And I went to my supervisor at the time. I told him, my wife and I want to start having kids, and I just want to make sure, we're good here. And he said, Bernard, don't worry. You'll be one of the last people to go out of this department. So I went on vacation, and I got a phone call. I was in Sedona, Arizona, at my in-laws' house, and my boss was on the line. He goes, Bernard, there was a layoff today, and you were one of them.
Oh, thanks a lot, boss.
Yeah. And
how long was it between that first conversation and this one?
Well, my wife was about 6 months pregnant with our first child.
Oh, geez.
And,
gosh.
So it was amazing. What happened was Nissan decided to build, at the time, the largest North American assembly plant. They were trying to bring more production into the States, and I believe it was in Tennessee. And it was the first time that they had recorded a loss, and the shareholders, they basically demanded some sort of response.
Right.
And so they had an outside company come in and say, well, we're going to take 10% out of every department. And it was based purely on seniority, not on the value of that person. So I wasn't the most senior member, but I wasn't the newest member of the group, but I fell within that 10% margin.
Yeah.
And what had happened was the departments that I serviced, they petitioned the company, and the company hired me back as a contractor. So I ended up doing contract work for them, but I had such a distaste in my mouth after that I really didn't want to work for another corporation. And at that time, it was like people didn't jump around from job to job. You were supposed to be loyal to a company, and they were supposed to watch out for you. And I just felt I was really bitter about it. And I started freelancing, as much as I could. And eventually that contract work, it ran out, and they moved the entire corporate headquarters, I think it was to Tennessee. So they left Southern California. It started a 14-year project of working for myself, and I ended up doing work for the surf apparel industry. I did work for Disney, marketing Disney Online. I did work for Toyota and Honda. I did work for All Trade Tools. I had a great time because I did such a variety of things. I did everything from car illustrations to cutaways of tools to apparel illustrations for surf T-shirts and stuff like that. And it was really wonderful because every day I had something completely new on my desk to do. After 14 years of doing that, 4 girls, my wife and I had 4 girls. I said, I had it. I got to get out of the house.
Yeah. No doubt.
that was when I went back to corporate, and I was lucky enough to get the job with Adidas. And then 3 years later, I was just really tired of drawing golf bags and shoes. And I can't remember how I got in contact with him. I was either through a friend or something, but they put me in touch, and they started asking me to do some moonlighting. And then Berry Meguiar asked me to come on full time. And I was like, God, that sounds like fun. Draw hot rods all day. I'm there.
Nice. Well, a great story about, lots of times people work for big companies, and I think there's security there, maybe more than if they work on their own. And there really is not. It's a bit of a myth because many times with big companies, you never know when it's coming because they can't tell you. They won't tell you, or they don't even know. Your boss maybe doesn't even know it's coming because right after he lets you go, he's let go. So, yeah, great lesson and great attitude about the whole thing. Thanks for sharing that. Let's talk about a big career aha moment, something that really kind of enlightened you?
I think maybe it's just kind of echo what we just talked about. There's really no security, even working for yourself. When I was at Car Crazy, my wife was given an amazing opportunity. She was offered a 6-figure salary to head up a group for the Pentagon in Florida along the Emerald Coast between Destin and Pensacola on one of the military bases. And she said, well, you could go back to freelancing, and I really want to do this. And so when I resigned my position at Car Crazy, they said, well, we want to keep you on, so would you work remotely? And I was like, yeah. So we moved out to Florida, and eventually Car Crazy went away, and I started doing screen print work up and down the coast, and the Gulf Horizon oil spill hit, and most of my clients were buying screen print for the tourist industry. And that whole region was just devastated by that oil spill. And the economy was already, it was after the '08 crash, and it was already having a hard time, but that really devastated the Emerald Coast. And I was basically, I had one client that folded up shop owing me $10,000. And I was like, in a financial free fall. So I kind of echoing what we were talking about. There's really no security in anything. And if anything shows us that, I mean, you look at the '08 crash, there were people who, they retired and that crash happened and they ended up penniless. So you really can't, there is no anticipating the future. You can make plans, but it's like the old axiom, you plan for the worst and you hope for the best.
Understood. Well, let's have a little bit of fun and talk about your first special vehicle. Now, you already shared that VW, but is there a car that's really special to you that you finally got that really got you excited? Yeah,
it was a 1956 Buick Special station wagon. This is when I was living in San Clemente. My girls were young. I was working out of the house, and I was right by the beach, so I was surfing 3 or 4 days a week. And, my routine was to get up, get the kids to school, put them in the wagon, drop them off, run by the surf break, see what was going on. If nothing was going on, go back and hammer out more designs. And it was an awesome lifestyle.
That sounds like a nice life. Yeah.
It was great. And it was
I'll
funny.
Take that.
It was really funny because it was a beautiful car too. And it's like, I go down to San Onofre, Old Man's, and park it, and I'd come out of the water and there'd be people around my car. I had to excuse me.
Yeah. Got to get to work here.
It was one of those, it's those 50s cars are just, they're beautiful. There's the styling, just, there's nothing like it today. So, they really, and it was funny because you get on the freeway with that thing and people would rush to get to look at the car, and you end up getting boxed in. You always were constant. I mean, talk about defensive driving. Drive an old car like that around as your daily driver and see how life is.
Especially with mobile phones and pictures. Well, that 56 Special, those Buicks were cool. They got those 3 bullet portholes. I think it had 3, right? And then it has that beautiful...
The Century had 4.
4, yeah, okay. Yeah. Now, this was a 4-door wagon, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it had that beautiful sweeping line that came off the front fender down to the bottom of the rear left tire. If I remember my car right, usually they were two-tone. Was your car two-tone?
Yes, it was red on top and white on the bottom.
Nice.
Yeah, excellent. It was all red and white interior. It was a beautiful car.
No doubt. Was that your seller's remorse vehicle? I'm kind of guessing it might be.
Yeah, it was, and my kids still give me a hard time about it today. But when we moved to Florida, we had 3 cars, and we had a whole house full of stuff to move. And I knew I had a feeling I was getting into a situation out there that I wasn't going to have the same opportunities that I had in California. California, for all its problems, it still has a lot of industry, especially for a designer. There's a lot of opportunity. And I had been to the panhandle of Florida before, and it's beautiful there, but there's not a lot there. So I knew I was going to be relying heavily on freelance because I didn't see a lot of industry out there. And I just said, I need to get rid of it. I need to have those funds available.
Yeah, understood. Well, heard a lot of those seller's remorse stories on this show about 1,200 now. So quite a few of those. What has you excited and fired up about this brand new year we're into, 2019?
Well, I think for me, it's interesting. I see the economy really affecting what I do. When businesses aren't willing to cut loose on projects, it affects me quite a bit. Whether it's designing packaging or designing the aesthetics of a new product, or doing even T-shirt art. How responsive companies are to letting loose with those dollars for new products, it affects me quickly. And the turnaround of the economy has been, for me, it's been great. I mean, things are really starting to pick up again, and people are spending more money than they had been. It was a tighter pull a few years ago. It's getting easier now. So
yeah,
I'm really looking forward to the rest of this new year.
Awesome. Here's a very introspective question for you, Bernard. If you were a vehicle, if you were manifested into a vehicle parked in the garage tomorrow, what would you be?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's kind of like Barbara Walters, if you were a tree question.
Hey, don't compare me to Barbara Walters. Maybe her success, but no, I don't want to go down that road. But it's a funny question. It was a question that a fellow artist, Harold Cleworth, suggested I ask this question way back. He was one of my first 100 guests, and he gave me this idea, and it's generated a lot of interesting answers. So you can blame a fellow artist for this one. Yeah,
Berry Meguiar had a Ford GT that thing was just an amazing piece of machinery. But, especially with my stint with him, it was interesting to see all the different types of genres of car clubs and stuff, from the tuners to the lowriders. And I have such an appreciation for all of them. But from an artistic point of view, the lowriders are really, a lot of these families, they'll pass this car down from generation to generation. They keep adding to it and detailing it and doing things to it. But from a wow factor, from a performance factor, that Ford GT was the closest I've come to being in a car, that's that type of caliber. And they're amazing cars. I like the classics too. I mean, there's a romance about the classic cars. There's an aesthetic there that it's too difficult for me to say. I would want.
You're all over the board, dude.
Yeah, I would want 3 or 4 cars depending on the mood. I'd want a truck or a sports car.
So every day you'd be a different car, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
so.
That's fair enough. Okay. Well, today we'll say you're a Ford GT. How's that sound? That's a pretty cool
That sounds
vehicle.
good.
Yeah, there you go. Well, Bernard, up next is the last lap. Before we put the pedal to the metal, let's say thank you to today's Cars Yeah sponsors. Do you know the best way to protect your vehicle, both the exterior and the interior, is with a car cover? I've been using Covercraft car covers since 1975. That's right, 1975. It's a fast, easy, and inexpensive way to keep your vehicle looking new. Covercraft has been manufacturing premium quality exterior and interior covers for over 50 years with a stellar reputation for durability and design. They're the world's largest manufacturer of custom patterned vehicle covers that are crafted to fit over 80,000 patterns and growing. They are the only cover I'll put on my vehicles. You can choose from a wide variety of fabrics, styles, colors, and more. From full cover designs for factory to custom-made vehicles, plus convertible top covers, trucks, truck cab coolers, motorcycles, scooters, ATVs, trailers, campers, personal watercraft, and a wide variety of custom features. Covercraft is the right choice. Learn more today at covercraft.com and tell them Mark sent you. That's covercraft.com. Are you looking for a way to get your products or services into the ears of thousands of automotive enthusiasts around the globe? I can help. This is Mark Green here at Cars Yeah, and I'd be honored to be an influencer and ambassador for your brand in a unique and personal way. 5 days a week, thousands of subscribers and listeners enjoy the Cars Yeah podcast and website. Contact me today and I'll show you how at mark@carsyeah.com or connect with me through the Cars Yeah website at carsyeah.com. Hey, Mark Green here from the Cars Yeah podcast. Did you know you can now see me on the Cars Yeah TV show? That's right, Cars Yeah is now on MAV TV. I visit some of the past Cars Yeah guests and take you along for the ride. Go to mavtv.com to learn more where you can enjoy Cars Yeah TV. MAV TV is also available on DirecTV, Fubo TV, Fios by Verizon, or you can stream it through mavtv.com online. And they said I only had a face for podcasting. All right, Bernard, we are back. We're entering the last lap. I'm going to fire off a series of questions and ask you to give our listeners some very quick blips of the throttle answers. So here we go. What's the best automotive advice you've ever received?
So when I was driving that Buick around, something I learned real quick is an old car like that, unless you have unlimited funds and you can really do a nice off-the-frame restoration, should not be your daily driver.
Yeah, I understand. I've been there, done that.
Yeah, when you're playing around with it, you got to be someplace at some time. It's those old cars are great to work on. They're pretty simple, but it's really easy to get into a project and then find yourself in a position where you need a part and you got to end up spending a week looking for that part.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, I've used daily drivers, old cars as daily drivers. Had a '66 Mustang Fastback that I tried driving for about a year and a half up here in the Pacific Northwest, and it was a bit of a challenge, that's for sure. Yeah. Plus, it was a GT 350 clone, so it had a lot of power, a little slippery in the slick roads, but it was a cool car to drive. But yeah, I finally said, I need something more reliable. So we take for granted how great cars are these days. They just don't break anymore. I mean, cars are just incredible nowadays. Would you share one of your personal habits you believe has contributed to your many successes over the years as an illustrator?
Yeah, I think, for me, looking back at things, especially with my family, especially when you're a young parent, life is coming at you very fast and you really don't have time to think about what's happening to you. I think the trick in life is to take a moment and enjoy what you have at that time. That sounds like a really easy thing. It sounds like a common sense thing, but it's a lot harder to do it. You get caught up in trying to meet your family's expectations, meet your own desires of where you want to be. And then you're dealing in, we're all in this hyper competitive society. And for me as an illustrator, I mean, my profession is very competitive, and it seems like everybody you meet is an artist, So it's one thing to be an artist where you sit down and you paint or draw when you feel like it, but a professional does it every day, whether he feels like it or not. And there's a difference there. There's a difference between being able to draw when you feel like it and having to draw when you don't feel like it and perform at a certain level. And it's at those moments you really have to slow down and say, this is very cool what I'm doing. This is very neat that I can make a living like this.
Absolutely. There's a great quote I remember that says, if you're depressed, you're living in the past. And if you're anxious, you're living in the future. But if you're at peace, you're living in the present. And
that's
I think
wonderful.
That's exactly what you just said. Yeah, it's a great way to think about life. Yeah, take a moment, smell the flowers. That's why that quote's so important. Yeah, take a moment and just focus on what you're doing today. Try to forget about all the other stuff for a little bit. Now, how about a resource? There are lots of great resources for us automotive enthusiasts these days. Is there one you'd like to share?
Well, I mean, I love SEMA. I got to go a few times with Berry Meguiar. I love the car shows. Hot August Nights is a great show. The Good Guys always put on great shows here in Scottsdale. The Good Guys come here once a year. There's a lot of great resources. And the wonderful thing about, technology is that it's all at your fingertips. When my dad was a designer, and I used to hang out at a shop in the summers, and I would see these illustrators coming with their portfolio pitching for work. You don't have to do that anymore. You don't have to beat the streets. Everything's at your fingertips. It's pretty amazing. I mean, there's a lot of bad things about the internet, but there's so much great stuff. You have so many resources, and definitely SEMA's one of them.
Love SEMA. Been going to it for 30 years now. Also, there's a great show in your old stomping grounds that's relatively new, the Classic Auto Show, which takes place in Costa Mesa this year in March. In fact, I'm going to be the MC on the celebrity stage. I'm going to be getting to talk to some great past Cars Yeah guests who've been on the show and a couple future ones. So, yeah, if you get back over there to Southern California in March 16, 17, check it out. Now, if you could have a drink with anyone in the automotive industry, living or deceased, who would it be?
Gosh, it's hard. It's hard to say. I like Jesse James a lot. I mean, the guy, he grew up in Long Beach. He started West Coast Choppers. I think he's in the gun industry right now. I think he's not even. He's making
custom guns. I ran into him at SEMA and talked to him a little bit. I'm working on getting him on this show. Hopefully I'll get him on the show here sometime soon. But I think that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, he seems like the real deal. So. Yeah,
he's very cool. Schwag used to work for Berry Meguiar, and I got to know him. And he was the co-host for Monster Garage. But I don't know. I think for me, maybe someone like Daddy Roth or someone like that. I don't know.
Ed Roth. Oh, that's old school. Yeah, yeah. I got to see him as a kid at a car show up in Orange County. In fact, I have a poster. I still have it to this day that he signed for me, which was pretty cool because I built a lot of his models back in the day, the Ratfink and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Daddy Ed Roth, that would be pretty cool. Now, is there a book you've read that you think our listeners would enjoy reading?
I can't think of anything car related. I'm a Christian, so if I had to recommend a book, I would have to say the Bible. And I know that's probably really politically incorrect today, but
I don't think so. No, it's a great reference. I've had many guests reference that book, including Berry Meguiar, of course. Very religious gentleman, very much a Christian. So I think we'll stick with the Bible. I think it's a great reference point for anybody to enjoy, no matter what they're standing. There's a lot to learn there. Well, listeners, I'll remind you that you can find everything that Bernard has shared on his Cars Yeah show notes page. Just go to carsyeah.com, type in Bernard Oliver, and that page will pop right up. All right, Bernard, we're getting up to the checkered flag here, and this last question can be a bit of a doozy, but it's fun to think about. Today, I'm going to buy you any cool collector car on the planet. You can have that old Buick back or whatever, Ford GT. Doesn't matter what it costs because I'm going to park it in your garage. There are a couple rules to this game, and they are, you can only have this one collector car in your garage. You can have a daily driver, but just one collector car. You have to drive it. No garage queens here. I want you to get out and enjoy it in the beautiful foothills of the Arizona desert there outside of Anthem. And you can't sell it to buy a bunch of other toys with or cars for all four of your girls. So what can I buy you today?
Oh, wow. That's an interesting question. I would really have to think about it, but being on the spot, I'll take that Ford GT. Black would be nice.
Okay. Well, that's the color of Barry's car. He's got the new Ford GT model as well, which I think is in black also. So, those cars look pretty ominous in black. So, you don't see them around too often in black as well. Well, I'll get to work on that car for you. I might have to drive it from up here in the Pacific Northwest down there to Arizona. I might put a few miles on it before I deliver it, but that's okay. It'll show up nice and shiny, in good shape. I know how to take care of cars. Well, Bernard, you've taken me on a great ride today. I've really enjoyed your stories. I want to thank you for sharing your journey with the Cars Yeah listeners. Could you offer us a little parting piece of wisdom or guidance before you rip off into the Arizona desert in that Ford GT?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, whatever your station in life is, as long as you're moving forward, you're learning something new, you're adding to your skill sets, your future will be bright. You may not know what your future will be, but as long as you're growing, this kind of speaks to dead-end jobs. There's only one reason you should stay in a job. You're either growing intellectually or they're compensating you for staying at that job. You should always be looking for the next opportunity.
Great
just
advice.
To continue to grow.
Yeah. Yep. Continue to grow and learn. Sharpen that saw every day. What's the best way for listeners to follow along with you and your business?
So I guess my website, you can get all my contact information there. It's www.designsbybernard@yahoo or designsbybernard.com. At yahoo.com is my email. You're more than welcome to drop me a line. Love to hear from you.
Listeners, I'll put all those contact links on Bernard's show notes page on the Cars Yeah website. Check out what this young man is doing and what he's creating. I think you're going to be blown away. Some really, really beautiful work, Bernard. Thanks for being so generous today with your time, your expertise, and for sharing your many experiences with me and the listeners. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity of being on your show.
You're welcome. It's great fun. You take care of your cars, but who takes care of your investments? Tune-ups aren't just for engines. Updating your financial plan is important too. Your GPS may take you from A to B, but it won't help you on the road to financial freedom. For that, you need a good co-pilot and a very trusted advisor. Chris Kimball, CFP, is just the man for the job. He'll guide you down that road without driving you crazy. For over 25 years, Chris has helped people just like you and me with their financial planning and investments. With a master's degree in financial services, he is eminently qualified, and he's a car guy too. Learn more at chrisvkimball.com or call 866-ON-A-PLAN. Securities through Money Concepts Capital Corp., member FINRA SIPC. CK Financial Services is not affiliated with Money Concepts Capital Corp.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.